On April 22nd, 1972, the Metropolitan Opera threw a special gala for the retirement of Sir Rudolf Bing, who had been the general manager of the Met for 22 years at that point. And some of the greatest names in the operatic world at that time were present and performed, from people like Joan Sutherland and Luciano Pavarotti, to Roberta Peters, Anna Moffo, Dorothy Kirsten, Cornell McNeil, Montserrat Caballé, Placido Domingo, Franco Corelli, still probably my favorite tenor, and many others. But even among the highlights, one specific performance stands out as probably the climax of the evening: the tremendous Act 4 duet from Verdi's late life opera, La Forza del Destino, performed by Richard Tucker and Robert Merrill, tenor and baritone together, both Americans, both funnily enough from Jewish ancestry, and some of the greatest singers of their time and of recorded operatic history. Both of them past their primes, Richard Tucker approaching 59 and Robert Merrill approaching 55, and both of them in tremendous form for this particular performance. This performance was also partially telecast and in color, which was exceptional for the Metropolitan Opera at that time, and audio highlights were later released on LP and ultimately on CD. Now, bootlegs of this performance have been available for a while. There was actually a color version from Japanese television that had been preserved, and a black and white version of the American telecast, but thanks to Yong-Ewon, whose channel I highly recommend you check out, we now have a full in-color version of the duet with video. And what I've done is I've combined the video from Yong-Ewon's channel with my own restored version of the CD release of the audio to give you the best overall experience. So let's listen to the performance together and talk about what makes it so special and so memorable.
Tucker and Robert Merrill,
and we have Riza Stevens as the announcer, a very famous mezzo-soprano.
Both have celebrated their 25th anniversaries as leading artists of the Metropolitan, and tonight they are going to do the dramatic duet they have sung so often together in the Opera House, from the third act of Verdi's Forza del Destino. Maestro Molinari Pradelli is again the conductor.
Robert Merrill, of course, was one of the greatest American baritones of all time. Renowned for his round, deep, clear sound. Here in the role of Don Carlo. For 4 acts now, Don Carlo has been pursuing Don Alvaro, sung by Richard Tucker, because Don Alvaro was going to be married to Carlo's sister without her father's permission. They were going to elope, and when Carlo is caught, he chooses to surrender honorably, but upon setting down his gun, it discharges, and he accidentally kills Don Carlo's father. Wow. Merrill had an incredible open sound in the passaggio. It was just... So Merrill, Don Carlo says, "It is written that it is my destiny to punish you for the killing of my father." He still doesn't accept the idea that Alvaro was not culpable. And Richard Tucker, as Don Alvaro, says that essentially life has humbled him to the point where he has now become a monk. He wants to be left alone to live his life in pure repentance. Wow. Tucker, until the end, had a massive, massive, beautiful resonant sound. Carlo wants to fight Alvaro to the death to avenge his father, and he calls Alvaro a coward for refusing to do so, now as a monk. And Alvaro is an honorable man, so having his honor insulted moves him very deeply. He's frustrated. But 3 times he will be challenged by Carlo, and he will successfully resist the first 2, but let's see what happens. This is one of the most beautiful themes from the entire opera, here beautifully incorporated in the melodic line of the duet. And that's an F sharp, completely open in the passaggio. I feel like both Merrill and Tucker, like a lot of great singers, started to sing more and more open in the passaggio the older they got. He says, "You left my sister dishonored and abandoned, betrayed." And Alvaro swears a priest's oath that he never dishonored her. No, I have loved her as love is only possible in heaven. Merrill will choose the words a little bit there. Amazing. Carlo says, "My fury will not be placated by your lying words." And Don Alvaro will do something he's never done before. Prostrate himself before Carlo. And Carlo insults his ancestry. One of the greatest moments in the duet. Robert Merrill with a totally wide open F flat, and Tucker, initially furious at the insult on his lineage, once again contains himself and says, "Hell will not be triumphant in this encounter. Go away, let me be." Do you put me to scorn? Go. Final insult to his honor. Now you have sealed your fate. To death, to death. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Incredible performance. And again, the two of them are two of the greatest American operatic singers, at least in recorded history. Robert Merrill, just a massive, beautiful baritone voice, so rich and deep and expressive, and would just make these enormous sounds, and particularly in this duet, maybe a little bit after the middle, that climax of the final time that Alvaro manages to resist Carlo's urgings on to duel. Merrill makes the most of that enormous moment that Verdi has written in the score. I think it works way, way, way better if the baritone is willing to sing that phrase entirely wide open, even though it sits quite high in the baritone passaggio. There's some that cover it successfully and it still works, but the sheer excitement that Merrill manages to generate here is basically unmatched. I don't know of anyone that does it quite as well, although there are some that come close. And then Richard Tucker had such a powerful, beautiful tenor voice. Sometimes later in his career, he could almost bark in the middle and upper register, but here he is incredibly well phrased, incredibly intentional. His singing is passionate, virile, full of strength. And this really was one of his great roles. I recently did a video actually of Maria Callas singing the final aria from La Forza del Destino in a 1954 studio recording. Well, Richard Tucker was the tenor that sang Alvaro on that recording, and so here we see that 18 years later, his voice is basically unabated. Maybe his high notes are a little bit more boxed in, a little bit tighter, but they're still extremely powerful, very resonant, and his dramatic instinct, if anything, had only grown. So I'm very, very thankful. We're extremely blessed that this performance exists on video and in such good audio. It really is one of the most memorable performances that have come down to us from the Metropolitan Opera, period. And so I hope you enjoy. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you have any other suggestions for singers or performances you'd like me to discuss, please let me know that as well. Have a wonderful day.